Maybe if I
All
used
right,
my phone, it would have been better. Oh well.
baby. Well, we're live now, so it's a little late.
Too late.
Too late now. Hey, Rhonda.
Hi, Rhonda.
There's a 30-second delay, so until the clock gets to 30 seconds, nobody sees anything. But
Hmm.
because it's through a third party, but they're going to hear this whole conversation, so this is awesome. We're
Okay,
just
great.
rolling. We're just rolling with it.
Let's do it.
Uh, it'll be on the internet forever. I'd help us.
Forever.
Seriously, this is getting Kelly on her first live. This should be entertaining.
Hi,
There you go. Hey, Rhonda.
Rhonda.
Rhonda's
Funny.
my number one slash number two fan. Her and Kenny, but Kenny hasn't been around as often lately. Um, so this is Kelly. This is somebody that I've known for years, and Kelly is making a lot of changes in life right now. Kelly always looks so cool. Yeah, Kelly's living it up over. She's got the killer life.
I have the killer life for sure. Finally,
I'm your number one fan.
Rhonda's
I
move. Thanks, Rhonda.
love you, Rhonda.
Hmm.
That might piss off Annie actually, but that's okay.
I think she's saying she's my number one fan.
Either or, she's probably both of our number one fans.
I'm her fan. It's cool.
There, Rhonda's love Rhonda. We'll have to get Rhonda on one of these too at some point.
Yeah.
Oh God, we'll get the whole group on. That'd be entertaining. We got to get Becky on and make her laugh. That would
We
just
do
like
need to do that. Yeah.
that would go viral. That would just take it off. That would be
Yeah.
a whole different level.
Yeah, we should do
So
that for sure.
all right. So all we do is have a conversation.
Okay.
So let's talk about changes since that's
Let's.
a easy topic to start with.
Okay.
So what changes have you been going through?
All of the changes. That is a. Well, that's a hard question to answer. Spiritual, mental, emotional, physical, everything.
And how did this trigger? I mean, what started? I've known you for over 3 years now, and it's like,
What do you
it's
think
like,
started it?
what do I think started it? I don't know. For 3 years, I've been dropping spiritual hints to you forever, and it's like out of nowhere, you just had this amazing experience, and now you're like a completely different person. Your whole life has changed immediately.
I just woke up one morning, literally. I just woke up and felt different and started meditating, and it just, I don't know, everything was different. I mean, I meditated before then, but for like 5 minutes here and there, doing like guided just to help my anxiety or whatever it was. But that day I woke up and everything was different. What I wanted was different. Um, I don't know.
So how do you
Wow.
feel? How do you feel different now, though? Like, I mean, what has
How do
what
I
is
not feel different? That's such a, we could talk for hours about this. How do I feel different? Um,
okay? So let's do this, right? Like, I have this
let's
thing that
break it up.
so I have this thing that I believe in, right? There's mental, then there's emotional, then there's spiritual, and I
Mhm.
believe that three of those need to be aligned, right? It's mind, heart, and soul, and that's what I'm working towards. I'm not there yet. My mind is obviously lagging. Um, my heart and soul know what they want, but my mind is lagging.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm trying to get.
Yeah.
So how did it change for you mentally?
So there's a couple really key things. One, I struggled with anxiety and depression for since I can remember. Um, and through I don't want to say none of that mattered or matters anymore, but to an extent. it's just so much easier for me to self-correct. Anytime I get any like little tiny bit of feeling like anxiety is coming on, it's like I can snap my fingers or just just recognize, wait, this isn't real, or this life is temporary or whatever, and be fine, be good. So mentally on that level, it changed, I've changed. I would also say,
But I think part of that is the awareness, right? Because now you're catching,
100%.
like you're catching yourself in your triggers before they just spiral.
Mhm.
So I
Well,
think I think
it's
it's a big
awareness and it's perspective, right? It's I don't the little things that used to make me anxious, worrying about my job or if somebody's going to be upset with me, or worrying, making money, or things that we as humans worry about, basic needs being met, things like that. Um, I don't know. It's perspective. It it allow it, like you said, awareness, but I don't, I'm just at peace. I just know that everything's going to work out, and whatever happens is meant to happen, and in the big scheme of things it doesn't matter. This is just my short little human life. Right? Like, I don't know,
so
that makes it sound so silly.
it,
I
it
feel
does.
silly, the words coming out of my mouth, I'm like, this doesn't make sense, but that's how I feel. I don't know.
I think when that perspective changes, right, and you're grounded in a spiritual way, the hard part is the human side, right? Because the human side keeps gripping you and pull you back into, human tendencies.
Constantly.
I still have that problem constantly.
Yeah.
That's a big issue for me. Like the self-doubt and insecurities and the fear. Yes, Rhonda, definitely. Yes, awareness. It's a process though, right? Like you're
What is
fortunate that it happened so quickly for you,
Mhm.
but you've also been working on the other stuff for a long time too.
That is true. That's really true. I mean, I've been in therapy for three 3 years, maybe longer.
Um,
Um, consistent every week in therapy for, I think, 3 years.
well, it was a
I
little
don't
bit
know,
after I. It
two and a
was
half.
a little bit. It was a little bit after I met you that you
So
started
maybe,
therapy.
yeah, maybe two and a half consistently. I mean, I've seen therapists for years and years, but consistent, like working on me, really doing the work um, for a while. And yes, Rhonda, it 100% is a daily battle. The whole human versus spirit me, which is just the only, without having, I'm a baby in this, right? It's been 2 weeks. So without having the vocabulary, that's the vocabulary I use. Me versus spirit me. It's a battle. But thankfully, because of the awareness and because of my perspective, that battle is a lot shorter with some things. I will say with some things. There's a couple huge battles I'm still working on, and whatever. It's a thing. But yeah, I'm just grateful that this perspective has made that battle so much easier. It's easier.
It makes it, like me, like being an addict and being addicted to many different things in my life and
Mhm.
workaholic and all these different things that I always transferred it to, right? Like waking up released a lot of those ties, right? It took some of those human void filling negative traits and just tore them down immediately.
And I almost said addiction isn't something I've ever dealt with. We're not going there. Um, but like when you say that, I have very little desire to drink alcohol. And now, but before, I I couldn't really go a night without opening a bottle of wine. Couldn't. And we can talk about the health properties of wine and whatever, but I mean, I was drinking a significant amount, especially during COVID, significant amount every single night. And it's just different now. I literally don't have the desire. And I mean, I've had a couple glasses of wine in the last 2 weeks, and it's just, I don't want to
Well,
dull what I feel. I don't want to dull my natural senses.
it's not only that, but you don't have a void to fill anymore.
Yeah.
Void's gone. That itch,
I'm not, mhm,
you
not
know, I
trying to
need.
fill that sadness or, yeah. Yeah. So true.
Yeah, I mean, I call it the void. Me and Annie call it the void or the black hole, right? Because we fall into these overwhelming anxiety black holes, right? And that's just how we perceive it. So when looking at it from that way, I don't feel those as often anymore. Yes, they still
Mhm.
happen, and I still get overwhelmed.
Mhm.
But now I know how to get out of it, and it doesn't last days anymore. It doesn't last weeks. There's no crazy temptations or let me go do something stupid or let me just get really depressed or down about it.
Yeah. Yeah, it takes one meditation session and we're out of it.
Seriously, the craziest.
One group
It
session and we're good.
it like flips a switch and it's just over. Like it's not there anymore. Whatever was holding us down is gone,
Yeah.
and it's really crazy to think about, right? Because sometimes we'll talk for hours and we'll go through meditations, we'll go through different things in
Yeah.
hours, and then
Yeah.
sometimes it's as quick as 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Like it's just sit in the car and I know you're in a parking lot. Let's do this real quick and let's get centered, right? Like
Mhm.
but it's also that knowing that we need to stay centered, and that's the
Mhm.
difficult part,
Mhm.
making it routine throughout the whole day.
That is another mental thing. Um, Time. I, I, there will be moments that I feel drag on. I have no perspective. I feel like I had a pretty good sense of time beforehand. Like this would take me 5, 10 minutes, and I'll admit I always underestimate on how long something, or used to underestimate how long something would take. I would say, yeah, I'll be ready in 10 minutes, and it would be 15 or 20. But for the most part, it's close. Time completely escapes me now. I can be doing something, thinking I'm meditating for 5 minutes, and all of a sudden it's been 2 hours, and I don't know where the time went, or I will be working on something and think I've spent 4 hours on it and look up and it's been 10 minutes. Like I
Yeah.
don't my whole reality has shifted, and it's like I don't have a grasp on what is real. Oh, well, about a lot of things. Time specifically, I have no grasp of it. Sleep, sleep is totally different. I want to sleep all the time. I wake up in the middle of the night. I wake up consistently between 2 and 4. And like last night, I thought I slept a full night. I thought it was 8 a.m. I don't know. I don't get it.
I think because we are so powerful, we have to keep focusing on everything. It's 100%, Rhonda. I agree with that, right? Because when we tap into ourselves, right, and we start finding our truest self, our soul self, our spiritual self, humanistic things start releasing, right? And they start disappearing a little. Just like the tendencies, the negative habits, a lot of the restraints disappear, right? Things that held us back. And time is a big one because that creates so much anxiety. Time is horrible, and that's
Yeah,
100% man-made, right? Like
yeah. It's a
that's up there with
construct. Hmm.
it, it's all about giving people that urgency for whatever the purpose is, and it creates this negative connotation around it to where it really runs us into the ground a lot of ways. All
Yeah.
right, so that's the mental side. So now how has it changed on the emotional side?
Well, I guess the anxiety thing is emotional, right? For sure. But I think if you're talking about emotionally in terms of like dating or, things like that,
Just how you're processing it, or how you're absorbing it, or how you're releasing it, or how you're like being
yeah,
consumed
being consumed.
in your emotions, because emotions drive us to do many things, right? And
Mhm,
emotions have a huge way of controlling us,
mhm.
right? And you've always been a very emotional person. I mean, as long as I've known you, right?
True.
So whether you showed it on the surface or not, it's a different story. But I'm just a crazy person that wears it on my sleeve, and I'm just always whoever I am. That's good and bad in many, many ways.
Well, and
But
I am definitely emotional. I think that not everyone gets to see that side of me. You know me well, and so you've gotten to see that side of me. I mean, there are a handful of people in my life that never get to see that side of me or never did, especially professionally. Um, I would say, let me turn that off. I would say that I wish I could say it's like tempered me a little, like made me less emotional. But there are times where I'm more emotional, especially during meditating, I think maybe like normal life, maybe I'm less emotional. Um,
but I but I think your emotions flow more natural now, right? It's not the swings, and it's not the crazy ups and downs,
that's
or
true. That's
the
true.
obsessing ones, right? Like that humanistic obsession with certain emotions,
Hmm.
no matter what it is. Like if something bad is going on, you don't hold on to it as tightly. If something good is
True.
going on, you allow it, you accept it, but you
Hmm.
don't live either. And,
Hmm.
and and I think that's a big part of what people don't understand, right? Like getting spiritual doesn't mean that you don't feel anything anymore, and that you're Zen and Buddha and walking around like you float on water and all
Oh,
these
we're
other.
working on it. I'm working on it. That's the goal.
That's the goal. That's the goal. I don't think you'll ever be. I
Walking
don't
on
think you'll ever.
water.
Yeah, walk. It's
No,
easy. You just got to put
it's not.
rocks there that go right below the water level.
It's
That's
not the
all it.
goal.
Well,
But no,
all
I
right.
think you're
So
right. It's also been easier to let go of almost everything. Almost everything. It's been easier. What is Rhonda saying? Happy when I see the sun. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I get it, and I understand that too. My whole life, I never was a good sleeper. Yes, it is. It definitely is. In the spiritual realm, time just doesn't exist at all. Yes. Yes.
I'm doing the swaying thing again. I gotta be
You're
moving. My body has to move. I don't know what it is.
because you're
Um,
flowing. You're in a natural flow now.
yeah,
There's no more sitting still for you.
there's no more. I don't remember just the emotionally, for the most part, with maybe one exception, it's been so much easier for me to let go of things. Um, I don't need the constant attention and affirmation that I used to need. In fact, that's something that on the day I woke up was a huge realization for me that the things that I once wanted and needed and, you know, was didn't matter anymore. In fact, annoyed me, you know? So it was very easy for me to cut ties with things that weren't healthy and weren't serving me and weren't, for the higher good and my higher purpose. That I think before were harder for me to let go of, either because they did serve some temporary purpose of affirmation or whatever, or because I didn't want to hurt someone else's feelings. I would continue conversation with someone that maybe I wasn't 100% interested in or knew wasn't going anywhere because I didn't want to hurt somebody's feelings. And that's so not the way to be, like, and I don't know. I'm so grateful that it's just easier for me to let things go.
The holding on thing is tough, right? Like I mean, for so many years, I was in a marriage that I wasn't happy, right? And I know you understand that. So, like, and I couldn't let it go. I couldn't, like, I felt like I failed. I felt like I let her down.
Yeah.
And I was so dark inward that I've always just felt like it was my fault. When at the end of the day, it wasn't the right person. It
I
just
mean,
wasn't.
yeah, shame is a real thing, right? Guilt and shame, whatever, is a real thing and keeps us stuck in unhealthy situations for way too long. I mean, we have to
It's
rewrite the book on shame.
well, I think Brene Brown did that, but
Brene Brown did, and we're so
yeah,
grateful to her.
serious. That was.
She
I think
wrote
I'm on
all of
five.
the books on shame. Yeah.
She did. She changed the whole landscape on it, and
I don't think I told you that I shared that with my sister Jessica, who she's read it and now she shared it with my mom, and like it's one of those things that just goes viral.
the next thing you need to do share with people is her interview with Russell Brand on his
Oh,
podcast.
I haven't
Oh
seen
my
that.
God, it was amazing. It was
Okay.
unbelievable. It was crazy. Um, so wait, yes, yes, I understand about always worrying about others. Yes, that's a tough one.
You
That's been
do have
so
to set yourself free because you can't control what other people think of you, and it's not your responsibility what other people think of you. Your responsibility is to be honest and true to yourself and authentic and kind, and your responsibility is to be true to yourself. That's it.
and try and do right by others, right? In the meantime,
Mhm.
I mean, when you're true to yourself, it's not that you're self-serving. It means that you're being your best version of yourself.
Mhm.
So your intent towards others changes, right?
Mhm.
A lot more transparency. There's a lot more openness. It just it shifts the conversations, and it changes how the conversations happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I would
I mean,
say that's a good way to put it. That yeah, I think you said transparency or something. That my I've through therapy recognized the need for those authentic, transparent relationships, and kind of always said that's what I want and strive for. But I don't think that I honestly was secure enough or self-aware enough to hold that as a standard for myself, even that I was still willing to kind of compromise and be something that someone else needed or wanted, or play the game with transparency and not, oh, that person can't handle this side of me or this, that kind of thing. And I just, why do we do that? Why do we put on these masks so that someone else can accept us? That's not necessary. I'd rather have a
well,
smaller, tighter circle than a big circle where I can't be myself.
I think what it comes down to, right? Like I wrote something on this a few weeks ago, and it's an inside job, right? You can't not judge anyone else if you're judging yourself. You can't not have expectations. You're not having expectations on yourself,
Mhm.
and it goes down to it, right? You can't be honest with others if you're lying to yourself. You can't
Yeah.
any of these things, and I think it's so much in society of how we're raised and how we're just told to be
Yeah.
that we fall into these boxes. And you know yes, I do agree with you, Rhonda. I'm going to put that one up. We are programmed. We're programmed in many ways, and I think this is one of them, right? Because if you really look at it, right, I'm 41 years old. I'm a white male, and when I was a kid, I was called too sensitive. I was called too
Mm.
this, too, and that was a huge thing back then, right? Now it's a lot different, but when I was a kid, it was not acceptable by any
Yeah.
generation,
Yeah.
and I had a lot of trouble with that. I mean, I was bullied. My
Yeah.
parents were trying to hold me back and say you're too sensitive, you cry too much, you're too
Yeah.
miserable, and now knowing that I'm an empath and being secure in being an empath, a lot of it makes more
Now you
sense,
understand it. Yeah.
right? And I didn't have that when I was younger. It wasn't in the circle that I was raised in. It wasn't in the circle of people that I knew. And it was just a different world. Now we have the availability to reach out to people around the world. And we have the ability to find people that are like us and like-minded and can guide us no
Yeah.
matter where we are and where they are.
Have you read Untamed by Glennon Doyle?
I think so, but if
So
I
it's
did, it was
another I found her through Brene Brown, and she just is an incredible storyteller, but talks a lot about that, the programming. It's specifically about women, but she has a son and talks some about like the programming that we have, that society has around males and not being allowed to be sensitive and kind and feeling. And, women, as women, we're supposed to be kind and nurturing and selfless and, all these things. And a man is supposed to be strong and tough and, all these things. And it's really interesting how she kind of traces how her programming shaped her life. And then she kind of just woke up one day and said, this isn't me. I'm not me. I'm not authentic. I'm not happy. And it's her story is really unique and incredible. She's married to a woman now who was a Olympic gold medalist on the soccer team. But it's great. They have a great story, and they're just a really fun couple to watch. And I've just really resonated with her story about programming and kind of how she grew up and how she constantly has to fight the battle of reprogramming herself constantly. And Rhonda, you mentioned that, like it is reprogramming isn't a one-time thing. It is just like everything else, it's a daily battle, because we're fighting that as we're reprogramming ourselves, we're still living in the society that has these expectations. And so
Yes, Rhonda.
now they're calling us empaths. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the reality of the world, right? And the world is shifting and changing drastically. And now leadership doesn't quite understand, but that's fine. They will eventually. But this world is shifting so tremendously, so quickly.
It is, and it's really fun to feel that energy and to like have community like we do, that it is so obvious. And I don't know.
Well, I mean, there's many people like Erica Elm and Erin Elm, sorry, and Zoe Annabelle,
Mm-hmm.
and a few others that always talk about, once you see things for what they are, you can't go back anymore, right? Like you can't unsee it. You just can't, because you see through everything.
Mm-hmm.
All the smokes and mirrors,
It's the curse of the enlightened. Can't go back.
it is, and it's this amazing shift. And there's so many monks now that are coming out of, I guess, their choice of seclusion,
Mm-hmm.
to share their teachings and to share their messages, because there's so much to learn, right?
Yeah.
And there's so many different ways to do it. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's a matter of finding a way that fits for you and finding a way that works for you, and finding something that's comfortable for where you're at.
Yeah.
And that's not easy for people to accept, right? But what I think is going to happen is, as society continues to go through shifts over the next couple of years, well, decade really, but in the scheme of things, that's nothing. It's going to get easier, and it's going to be more accepted, and it's going to really shift everything. It's going to change how everything is getting done.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be a choice anymore,
Mm-hmm.
because the current path is not a very good one for anything about society right now.
Yeah, I agree.
So, born in Brooklyn, I type too fast. Yeah, you do. I've been told I talk too fast at times,
Type
but
too fast.
I try to talk slower when I'm on this. So let's talk about the spiritual side a little bit. Where were you before you woke up, and where are you now?
It's a good question. So I grew up in a Christian home, was always very devout. I was the perfect little church girl. And there's no other way to put it. I mean, my dad called me the perfect child. I mean, even like up until the day that he died. Through my marriage failing and losing my dad, I would say that spiritually, I don't, I can't say that I was dead because I always believed nothing changed, but I wasn't practicing. And I was really mad at God. And yeah, I mean, we could talk about this forever, but I'll just leave it at that. In my early 30s, I'm 38. In my early 30s, I kind of had my first realization that everything that I grew up believing wasn't necessarily that I didn't necessarily believe everything I grew up believing. That there were rules and dogma in the church that weren't congruent with what I believed. But it wasn't something that there were just a few simple things that was easy for me to say, no, that's not something that I subscribe to. And, I'm not going to be that kind of a Christian, basically. And then my marriage, all that happened, and my dad passed away, and, spirituality wasn't, I called myself spiritual, not religious, but even then I wasn't practicing. I wasn't pursuing anything. That part of my life was dormant, we'll say.
So I think grief is a big trigger for many people, right? Because I think when anger comes into play, the easiest person to blame is whatever God you believe in, right? And whatever religious belief you have, because it's easy to get lost in the dogmatic principles and the dogmatic religious ways of doing things. All right, so hang on one second. So that's Rhonda right there. Kelly, every day you're going to heal more and more each day. That's true.
Thank you, Rhonda.
So happy, Michael, surround yourself with good people. Well, I don't know about me, but I know that she still looks pretty good people part.
Rhonda, I'm glad you're in this circle.
Yes, Rhonda, we are lucky to have you in this circle.
Let's talk tomorrow. We can talk more about my Christian home that I grew up in.
Yes, and how that shifted.
Yep.
Yeah, not 100%. Me. No, not 100%. Me. Nope, not me. I rebelled immediately as soon as I could. Nope. I was I had a Jewish mother and a Catholic father. My dad has a resentment against the church, and I went to a Roman Catholic church. Out of all places for me to go, a Roman Catholic church. And then I ended up in a Roman Catholic high school on top of it. So that was awesome.
But, that helps with your knowledge of things and your understanding. I mean, right? No?
It helps me see through many things, yes.
Okay. Well, that's fair.
It helps me, the dogmatic beliefs go out the window real quick. And I saw through a lot of the BS. And in my mind, right, for me.
Yeah.
What didn't match my values, right? Yeah. And that's part of the spiritual awakening for me, is finding my values.
Yeah.
And what I value most and what matters most to me. Now, I've studied all religions. I haven't spent years doing it, but I've looked into every single one I can find.
Yeah.
And I have a tremendous amount of respect for all of them. And I believe they all have a tremendous amount of merit and value.
100%.
I don't believe in the ritualistic way, because to me, those rituals were created at a much different time, when life was much different and people were much different, and 99% of the population was illiterate, and it was easy to control the masses. Yeah. I guess, put it gently, and that's where I have an issue with it. But like you said, coming out of that fog a little bit, if anything, it's made my faith stronger in many ways.
Yeah.
Like 100%.
I
You
was
fell out of bed, huh? You roll off the bed?
No.
No? Did you fall off the bed?
No.
Here, give me a hug.
No.
Say hi, Sid.
Hi, sweet thing.
Yeah.
There's that smile.
Yeah, you haven't been alive in a while, baby.
Yeah.
You're usually sleeping by now.
Yeah.
And you should be. The movie's over, isn't it?
Yeah. I know.
Oh, it's over.
No.
Uh huh.
I will not.
It's not over.
No.
I don't know if you want to. If you want to continue this without me, or if you want to just cut it. It's up to you. I've got to go at least put her back in bed.
You're fine. We can cut it. This was a great conversation.
All right, we'll do another one, I'm sure.
Okay.
And maybe we'll drag Rhonda on with us with her herd
I
of
think we
kids.
should. Yeah, we should.
All right, guys, have a great night, and thank
Bye.
you, Kelly. Appreciate it.
Thank you. This was fun. Good night.
Bye.
Bye.